The Deputy Speaker has joined us. Honorable Members of Parliament, distinguished representatives of civil society, my colleagues, the Parliament staff present here, and also the EPTN staff from the EPTN Technical Assistance Team. I'm honored to present to you the purpose of our meeting, our interface meeting here. What are the objectives? My name is Willem Isaac, as introduced by Ms. Nakuta. I'm the EPTN program coordinator, manager, and I'm also the deputy director responsible in the committee services, basically carrying two hats. My presentation will focus on the introduction, the objectives, access to Parliament, just to explain a little bit what it is about, and our partnership with CSOs, and what are the expected results after this interface meeting. At the conclusion of the first interface engagement or gathering between CSOs and the Secretariat of Parliament, organized by the EPTN, that was now in January 2022, a number of suggestions were made on how CSOs or NGOs and Parliament can engage their collaboration towards improving parliamentary oversight, not only parliamentary oversight, but also lawmaking. Although many of the suggestions were general in nature at the time and require further discussion to craft them into workable channels or vehicles for CSO Parliament collaboration. It was generally agreed that a further step in the process of bringing Parliament and CSOs together is to facilitate an engagement, an interface between selected CSO actors and members of Parliament. So that engagement is taking place right now. What are the objectives of our gathering here? The main objective of the interface today is to bring members of our honorable members of Parliament, being elected representatives of the people of Namibia, and CSOs to appreciate their common sphere of operations in the context of oversight and accountability. That is the objective one. And also to define the extent and the vehicles and the instruments for collaboration as allowed or as is permissible and workable with the existing legal framework and the legal environment and rules of procedure established by our August House, being the Parliament. Now, on access to Parliament, what is access to Parliament? It is an important entry point in any meaningful engagement with elected representatives, parliamentarians, in the performance of their functions as elected representatives, lawmakers, and in the oversight of the executive, including the budget approval responsibilities. This is critical because citizens without adequate knowledge of how to access their representatives may find themselves in a complex maze. They may experience difficulties how to connect with their members of Parliament. Citizens may also may further discover that there are a host of formal procedures and informal arrangement that regulate their interaction of their elected representatives, and even the interaction of MPs with one another and with government officers, as well as interest groups or citizens. We all know Parliament is a house of procedure. It's a house of the rule of law. So there are a number of procedures, the standing rules and orders being one, and also we are also busy now with crafting the committee rules of the National Assembly. Now, the failure to grasp, to understand the rules of engagement can lead to a gulf between citizens and their elected representatives. Where individuals fall in their bid to engage Parliament smoothly, civil society as an instrument for securing the rights and interests of the people can engage MPs on behalf of their different constituencies. As the Honourable Speaker also mentioned, there are constituencies in the far remote areas where civil society should also actually represent those people our citizens in the far remote areas. Civil society works for discharging several economic, social, cultural, moral, and other responsibilities, issues on health, education, sanitation, housing, that responsibilities that fail in the domain of the private activities and on behalf of diverse constituencies, and have diverse capabilities and are more informed on several fronts than individuals. Now, coming to the partnership with civil society organizations, what we are saying is that the limited resources available to parliaments, especially in developing countries, has motivated many parliaments to foster collaborative actions in support of parliamentary activities and functions. CSOs are widely distributed across the country, here in Namibia, in different sectors of different capabilities, and can provide meaningful input into parliamentary development. Now, this informs the desire of our parliament not only to improve CSO access to parliament, but to strengthen collaboration between civil society organizations, as we also know NGOs, and parliament in the implementation and oversight of public policies and programs, including lawmaking. Now, honorable members, distinguished representatives, what do we expect after this interface session or this workshop after a session? Is that as standing committees, we expect standing committees with the support of EPTN, with the EPTN program, agree to compile lists of CSOs working on issues within their respective terms of reference and consult with listed actors on information and or evidence available to them that can inform the oversight agenda of standing committees. This basically means that if the committee responsible for health, the standing committee meets and there are issues that the committee discuss on oversight, and even when a bill is referred regarding health, then that list should be available to the committee so that the committee can, when the committee decides to conduct a public hearing, so that the committee can consult those civil societies based on that database that they have. Now, CSOs undertake to follow Parliament. The result, it's also another result, that CSOs, as CSOs, you have to undertake to follow Parliament and Standing Committee proceedings and inform themselves and inform yourselves on happenings in Parliament. You have to keep yourself informed and abreast what is happening in Parliament. Now, developing a common understanding about accountability mechanisms within the context of the Namibian law and constitutional arrangements in order to facilitate collaboration and support to standing committees in the performance of their oversight responsibilities. So we should develop that common understanding on what does our law say, what does the Constitution say, in the performance to assist and to support the standing committees in the performance of their oversight responsibilities. It is also expected that standing committees of Parliament take up the responsibility to advocate for the creation of a supportive environment for effective performance of CSOs in our country. The final expectation that we expect, the results, is to facilitate information sharing, very crucial, sharing information. We are in an information age between CSOs and parliamentary standing committees. So those are the expected results for this interface session. That brings me to the conclusion of the presentation on the objectives. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isaac. We have one last presentation. I think we have been talking too much. From our side, myself also, I'm now tired of listening to myself also, but kindly bear with us. I have one presentation to make that will set basically the scene for the panel discussion. So if you allow me, honorable members, our invited guest, I will stand on this side. I breathe better when I'm standing, so that I quickly do the presentation, and then we invite the panelists to come to the front, and we start the engagement. Thank you. The slides, as you see it indicated there, I hope to be very, very brief. So, honorable members, our invited guest, Parliament is a place where the nation speaks about its policies and laws through its elected representatives, and where the aspirations of our people are turned into laws. So Parliament is basically the house of lawmaking. Parliament consists of elected representatives called members of Parliament, and they are responsible for making and changing laws in the country. Parliament is also a neutral place where MPs meet to discuss, to consult, and to debate frankly, as you see every day through our Facebook page. When you follow the debate in chambers, parliamentarians are debating frankly, differing from each other on political, social, economic, and the legal implications on society. Parliament, or Namibia is a constitutional democracy, as we all know. The Constituent Assembly of Namibia produced the Constitution, which established a multi-party system and a Bill of Rights. So our Constitution creates three different branches of government, and many times Parliament is misunderstood as government. So we just would like to emphasize again that the three branches of government is the executive branch, that is the President and the Cabinet Ministers, the legislative branch, which is Parliament, and then the courts, which is called the judicial branch. So this kind of separation of powers is important in most democracies. These three branches are subject to checks and balances, and provision is also made for judicial review. Coming to us, the legislature, the founders of the Constitution has opted for a bicameral legislature with the National Assembly as the primary legislative organ and the National Council as a second chamber with reviewing powers. The members of the National Assembly are directly elected, while the National Council members are representatives elected from and by the regional councils. The National Assembly is made up of 96 elected members, and eight of them are appointed by the President. 11 political parties are represented in the National Assembly, and 6 political parties and 1 independent candidate in the National Council. So what is the role of Parliament? Parliament have 4 roles as per our Constitution. One of them is legislation. In Article 44, Parliament have legislative power, and the Constitution is saying that legislative power of Namibia shall be vested in the National Assembly with the power to pass laws with the assent of the President, is provided in this Constitution, subject and where applicable to the powers and functions of the National Council as set out in the Constitution. The Constitution also makes provision for Parliament to hold the executive accountable in terms of Article 59(3). And it says that any committee of the National Assembly established in terms of sub-Article 1 shall have the powers to subpoena persons to appear before and to give evidence on oath and to produce documents required by that committee. The role of Parliament is also to represent, as we have indicated, parliamentarians are representatives of the people. They are elected and put in power by the people. So their role is also to represent the interests of the electorate. In terms of Article 45, Parliament is of representative nature, and the members of the National Assembly shall be representative of all the people and shall be, in performance of its duties, be guided by the objectives of the Constitution, by public interest and by their conscience. So the last role of Parliament is Parliament approve government spending. You have seen many times how the appropriation bill is debated in Parliament, and this appropriation bill is presented by the Minister of Finance, who is representing the executive. So coming to the business of the day, accessibility to Parliament, the Constitution makes provision in Article 61 for public access to sittings. So the Constitution is saying that all meetings of the National Assembly shall be held in public, and members of the public shall have access to such meetings. In sub-Article 2, it says access to members of the public in terms of sub-Article 1 hereof may be denied if National Assembly adopts a motion supported by 2/3 of all its members, excluding such access to members of the public for specified periods in respect of specified matters. It simply means that it's only in very special circumstances that members of the public will not be allowed to attend chamber or committee meetings. As you may have noticed, during the time of COVID, our public galleries were empty, and we were also not inviting members to the public to standing committees. And that is because there was a motion that has been considered by the National Assembly, and it was also a health regulation. Coming to parliamentary standing committees, and we regard this as an entry point for citizens' involvement in parliamentary democracy. Members of Parliament appointed to assist Parliament in the performance of its functions. The purpose to perform functions which the House is not well fitted with, such as carrying out inquiries, hearings, witnesses, sifting of evidence, discussing matters in detail, and formulating reasoned discussion. As you may understand that when the 96 or the 104 members are sitting in chambers, it is very difficult to get to the detail of matters. So the standing committees is really there to perform a function where we can look for more evidence into matters that are discussed that should be discussed in the House and decided upon by the House. So committees provide a forum for investigation of matters of public importance, and committees effectively enhance the democratic process by taking Parliament to the people and giving them a role in its operations. So here we would like to say that civil society, non-governmental organizations, the academia, are often invited by standing committees to make presentations on what is happening at grassroots level or representing certain facts or presenting certain facts. So you may have noticed earlier in my presentation, I was talking about the standing committees having the right to subpoena persons to appear before the standing committee. So currently witnesses who do appear before the committees come for different reasons. Being public servants, they may be public servants that come and give account on expenditures, on projects, on implementation of recommendations. Many a times the Committee on Public Accounts would investigate the expenditures of the different ministries, and they would be called, or the committee on who's taking care of capital projects would invite that particular ministry to come and account on capital projects that were not implemented, or a committee has done an oversight visit and have submitted a report in the House and made certain recommendations to the executive. So the executive could be called to ask about the implementation of such recommendations. The witnesses are also people that have knowledge about particular government programs or policies that are of interest to the committee. At any point in time, the committee may summon any person they think necessary to come and account or provide more information on a particular issue. It could also be stakeholders in the community or a civil society organization which has an interest in the matter under inquiry. The committee may also invite such to consult. The committee can also invite an expert in a particular field to help the committee when a particular issue is being investigated. They could also make a formal submission to the committee on a matter of concern. So here we are saying that anybody could make a submission to the committee that concerns the particular person. Earlier today, in the opening remarks of the speaker, he explained that it is one of the first issues that we deal with in the chambers is to call for petitions if there are any petitions received by the National Assembly. So this is one of the most important ways of engaging with civil society and with the public. And a petition is a written application that are coming from people to redress a particular issue. And a petition is done in terms of Standing Rules 92 to 97, and any person can petition the National Assembly. And in terms of Rule 97, the Secretary of the National Assembly have to receive this petition. So when a petition is received, the committee who are responsible for addressing that issue or redressing the issue as per the petition may go out on public hearings. The parliamentary committee may go out on public hearings to provide the public an opportunity to convey its views on that particular issue, be it a bill, be it a motion or a petition that has been submitted to that committee. And these hearings or meetings are open to the public. The citizens, community group, interest groups, non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, government ministries, the media, the list is endless. So everybody is welcome to these public hearings. So the public hearings are currently, Parliament is using the existing structures within the regions to conduct these public hearings, meaning that when a committee is going to a particular region, through the regional councils, we would send out invitations. They would help us to make the arrangements in a particular region or constituency. and invite the interested people. Being here at Parliament, we may not be aware who are the people in that particular community that would have an interest in that particular issue, so we rely on the regional councils and the local community to inform us as to who would be the best people that should be part of public hearings. So that is how we make sure that we work through the existing structures and we do not leave out anybody. A committee will often ask for informed opinions, like I've indicated earlier, before deciding on a particular matter. As Parliament, parliamentarians are saying we do not have all the skills and all the knowledge and all the expertise, and we are open to be influenced by academia if there's a need for that. So professionals and members of civil society, many a times I ask also to give an opinion on a particular matter. So public hearings enable the community to assess the strength of support or opposition to a bill or a petition. I think this is very important. It's one of the main reasons why we are doing public hearings. So our Public Relations Office is central in making sure that we advertise our events and we publicize our events, as you can see. So in conclusion, Parliament is a representative of people's considerations. The principle of public participation is the cornerstone of accountability to the people. So this event is very important to us. The functions of lawmaking, budget representation and oversight will be skewed if Parliament are not using the democratic processes of consulting the electorate or taking the electorate into consideration. Parliament welcomed the support of the EU through the Enhancing Participatory Democracy Program in Namibia, and we find it invaluable for the institution. Assisting Parliament to effectively and efficiently achieve its mandate, as well as building and maintaining a sound and healthy relationship with civil society in the country is very important to us. So thank you very much. So we would now like to call upon the panelists, as was indicated earlier, to take the front seats. Let me help me to put chairs there. We have eight. Yeah. So I stand to be guided. We have 8 panelists. We have 6 seats in the front. We will squeeze each other. Ne? We will put the chairs, I hope we can still keep social distancing. But the panelists are welcome to take the seats in the front. Please, follow. You want to run away? We will take away the screen in a minute, Honorable Dingara.
Do you have the questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, we'll be reading it out.
Yeah. So while the panelists. CPDN program, and he will be moderating the session. So we would like the panel to consider 3 questions. One is how can the current engagement platforms, as was elaborated earlier by myself, be improved? Another one is what are the gaps, what are the barriers in terms of accessing Parliament? And then what are the proposals to enhance participation or public participation? So Dr. Tsekpo, I'm handing over to you. Thank you very much.
Originally, we were planning for 6 panelists. Now we have 7 going to 8 because the list I'm giving now is up to 8. So I'm wondering how we going to handle the 3 questions, whether we want to go 2 at a question or everybody is attempting all the 3 questions. What will the panelists suggest? Or you should give them 3 minutes each. Okay. 3 minutes each to do what? To answer all the 3 questions? Okay. Just a reminder to the panelists that even though we are aiming at strengthening oversight through this engagement, we know that the window is access. First, the people must have access to the committees. They must have access to members. And we know, to be reminded again, that if you look at the diversity of CSOs here, you come to realize that CSOs is not a monolithic organization. And so we don't expect the same things from all of them. And I think these have been touched on from the objective statement by our program manager and even by the speaker, when he indicated that it would be ideal for us to have a register of CSOs across countries so that we can make references at any time. So CSOs are a diversity, and they are also they have a lot of differentness inherent in there. And us as Parliament, we also know that very often we don't dictate the agenda. The agenda is what the executive is bringing to us. The agenda is what is in the media. The agenda is what the public is talking about. So to collaborate on all these is a lot of work. So then the issue is we have been given what the standing rules say about engagement and how to assess Parliament. We know we cannot come to the chamber because we will be strangers. But even in the committees, we are strangers until we are invited. Otherwise, we sit in the gallery, as I'm told when we come into this room. So the first question we have is how can the current engagement platforms be improved? How can the current engagement platforms that exist, that is permitted based on the standing rules, based on the Constitution, how can they be improved? Where do we start? From my left, from my right? Yes, I can see. Yes.
Honorable Murorwa, thank you very much, Honorable Murorwa. I think this is a very important topical issue under discussion. And as As for me,
Yes.
it must be encouraged by a discussion that comes from somewhere. And this is to check and balance on the National Assembly's activities. And therefore, I cannot check and balance myself. Therefore, I think that maybe a discussion must come from the civil society organizations whether we are accessible as a National Assembly to them.
I hear you,
Not that
Honorable.
I'm right, but that's my feeling.
Yes.
Are we accessible? Do we do enough to be reached by the civil society organization so as to the public? How are we reachable to them? How do they want us to improve on our communication and on how we involve ourselves with them? So I submit.
Thank you, Honorable. Like you heard in the presentations, we have been trying to investigate the subject of accessibility. The general outlook is Parliament is removed from us. We don't have access to Parliament. We started pursuing this by trying to get your secretariat and the CSOs to meet. We had a first interface. Although my objective was to help them understand the oversight function of Parliament.
Point of order here. Deputy Speaker.
Doctor, yeah, just because of time, I thought when one of the panelists take up the issue and come up probably with a question to be answered, I thought prudently, can you allow the panelists to come in before you come and before you explain? I thought you will eat up their time, and maybe at the end you can summarize. I beg to submit.
Thank you so much for the guidance. I was just going to give a little background to Honorable Cooper on the request. But generally, yes, that is it. The public says you are not accessible. We tried to get the Secretariat to explain to the CSOs how they can access. And they said the next stage is let's meet members and see how we can assess them. So the first question, yes, Honorable Murua had the floor to start to answer the first question. How forms be improved?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I think basically when we are having committee meetings, we do not go out in the media to inform the meeting, the public that, for example, Public Accounts is sitting every Thursday from 9 to 11. That is not there. And even when we are having hearings, it is true our hearings are being live streamed. The public is also welcome to sit in, but prior notice of hearings in the news media for the CSOs and the public to attend these hearings and be present is not being done. And I think that is one way how we can probably improve by giving out through the news media that there is going to be a hearing concerning that or the other issue, and also to inform the public via the media of the schedule of meetings of the committees that we are having, the committee meetings. That is the one thing that I was thinking of.
Not definitely following up, but I'm just pointing out what I feel is dynamically creating a serious impediment upon which Parliament, as a representation of the people, is not able to function and therefore not able to reach civil society. Let me tell you this. Namibia, as a secular, democratic, and unitary state created on the rule of law, of course, created 3 branches that were narrated in the presentation. I'm more than very sure that Parliament in itself has got deficiencies that lies within the creation and functionality of the institution itself. Even as we are talking now, the Parliament does not have a service commission like all the other branches of state. The judiciary, the executive. Parliament still very much, to some extent, relies on the executive to carry out its functionality and its oversight functions. From the most basic issues such as transportation to other more strategic issues of recruitment and so on. And therefore, Parliament has got institutional deficiency to operate as a strategic tool in holding the branches of government to account, because they are impediments, structure impediment. And I feel that if you can sort out those structure impediments, you will then end up sorting out the other functionalities. It's simply not there. Even as you look at the research capability at Parliament, it's not here. The assistant capabilities to the lawmakers, it's not there. And therefore, the lack of capacity for us to function. It is my view that if you fully, structure and complete the operational functionality, I know that it's in the making, but 33 years, I think, after independence, you cannot say that you are still forming a parliamentary service commission, which is then supposed to hold the administrative structure of Parliament as an institution together. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'll go to Mr. Hopwood.
Thank you, and all protocol observed. I fully agree on the issue of the Parliamentary Service Commission. I think that's been talked about since the 1990s, and we haven't really got there. But I also agree with Honourable Marora that there are some practical measures that could be taken quite easily and at not much cost now to improve communications. The one he mentioned is the media communications. The other, I think, issue that could be practically addressed, in the near future is the issue of the parliamentary website, which I recognise has improved quite a lot over the years. But I went on the website yesterday in anticipation of this meeting to look at the committee pages, and you click on schedule, and the last thing you see there is from 2021. So, for the public and CSOs, we don't know really what the committees are up to. There's no announcements of their trips or their public hearings or what subjects they're tackling in their committee meetings. And that's a very basic thing, which obviously is really important for young people, that these things are on websites, that they're rebroadcast or reposted on social media. So that's something that could be tackled. So the only area really of the committee section of the website where you can get a sense of what's been happening is the report section, which is updated as far as I can see with 2023 reports. So one can see what has been happening in the recent past, but one doesn't know what's coming next. And in general, I think we would like to see more open committee meetings, more public hearings. I was just talking to Honourable Marora earlier about how the IPPR does a lot of work which is relevant to the Public Accounts Committee, particularly the Auditor General's reports and so on, and we could liaise and work together, so we just need to find a communications means of doing that. So yes, there are very big institutional issues that are related to budgetary issues, but there are probably quite a lot of practical short-term, medium-term measures we can take to improve the situation now.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chekbo. I think the National Assembly is no longer at the pace where it was previously. At least now, we have moved on to communicating on social media. We at least receive a lot of petitions. That means that the public is aware of their rights of petitioning. At least there is communication in terms of public hearings, stakeholder meetings that we have. I do not say that we are 100% at where we want to be, but at least there is a movement. However, I would agree with Mr. Hopwood that there is no interactive discussion regarding the Facebook page. The ones that are dealing with the Facebook page do not dedicate themselves to follow the discussions and give explanation as to what is happening in the chamber. If there are questions asked, they do not diffuse wrong information or misconceptions that are there. They just post the discussion there and leave it there. So I think that National Assembly must dedicate somebody that deals with the social media pages. So as to the website, which is not updated as things are coming. And we are very busy nowadays at National Assembly. It's no longer the old National Assembly that we have, but we have things that are happening concurrently, and that is what the public does not know. Besides the fact that the gallery is open, is it accessible to them? How is the access to Parliament? How are we received as public as we are entering? Is it friendly? Somebody that will direct me, is it only the police which is there? And police in nature, by itself, are law enforcers. Is there somebody that will assist me and inform me about, this is the National Assembly. For instance, if I am a foreign national that just comes in, this is the National Assembly. This is what you can expect. This is what. Yes, there are many school tours and people that are taken through National Assembly. Yes, that is there. But the accessibility of the ordinary Namibian citizen, that's what I'm speaking about. I thank you.
Thank you. Yes, John.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me say something before I actually come to how do we improve the engagement. I just want to highlight that civil society are not enemy of progress. We are not anti-governments. We are there to promote transparency and accountabilities. We defend human rights, protection of natural environment and natural resources, a very key player in the well-being of the rural communities, and we assist and complement government program positively. There might be civil society in other countries that are anti-governments. Here in Namibia, we are talking about John Kasona sitting here, a true Namibian, a law-abiding citizen that is basically trying to do everything to meet government halfway in order to take us to the next levels. So what I think that need to be done is that we need a genuine recognitions of civil societies by governments as a key player in the well-being of the societies. To the point that if the law permits, I'm not privy to the parliamentary regulations, but if the law permits, why not have a civil society representative at some of these standing committees, or maybe just co-opt them, just to be closer? We are also not saying that maybe our parliament is completely removed from the society, but I think we just need to improve on certain things that can take us also forward. So I think to the level that we should also be seen as saplings of different governmental developmental arms, because what we are bringing to the tables is development, sustainable livelihood, improved livelihood, health, and education to the nations. What we are also seeing happening is the sense of togetherness togetherness, that we are all in this together, both parliamentarians and also civil societies in the country. So I think if those areas can be addressed, and I'm sure that we will be better off. And we should also not complain too much as a Namibian, because I think we are in a very democratic state, stable democracies, where I think we haven't seen any adverse mistreatment of civil society. For that, I think we have to applaud our government systems for creating that conducive environment for people like us to be able to have a space and contribute to the well-being of the society. Thank you.
But your contribution on the improvement, you said that will come later.
No, I said there need to be genuine recognitions
Yes.
for social security, civil society as a key player in social developments.
All right.
We need to have a social civil society representative at some of the standing committees. Then we don't fall behind on information and all those things. If the law permits, if that is doable, Honorable Tombi and Kandetu, if that is doable, have somebody there full time, just following on what is happening, then we are better informed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Honorable Dingaya, you want to have a bite?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, the question is clear, but how I understand it, it has got two parts. The first part, when you say accessibility to Parliament, then two things, in my view, come forth. One is to access Parliament in its entirety, and accessing Parliament through members of Parliament. Each member of Parliament as a representative is stated by the Constitution. Let me start quickly on the one for the member. Our Constitution should be understood. My understanding from the Constitution and the implementation of the structure in terms of individual member of Parliament, that is where the true accessibility exists. Because a member of Parliament doesn't have a structure, doesn't have a secretary, doesn't have any other steps that a person should follow to reach out to Honorable Cooper. Each member of Parliament is on all the levels. You are on the level of the citizens. The citizen can take a phone and call you without, and no member of Parliament will say, no, you cannot call me directly. Call my secretary, or call who, or call my private secretary. There's a direct access from citizen to each and every member of Parliament. Now, the problem is, everybody's quiet about it. It must not be known. This information that every citizen is having direct access to each and every member of Parliament must be hidden. No one must know it. You will find that some of the members of Parliament, some of us, do not want it to be known, because if the people know that I don't have a secretary, then I'm down. Then I don't have a name now or whatever. I don't know how to put it. But to me, I like it, because it is deliberate provision by the Constitution, so that each citizen can speak to each and every member of Parliament of that citizen's choice directly. There's nothing put in between the members of Parliament and every person. And the good thing is that particular member of Parliament, because he's a member of Parliament also, he or she is at all the levels. If the member of Parliament wants to speak to the president, he can take a phone and call. It's not too high for him, for her. He can speak to the minister directly. The member of Parliament, this is my understanding of the Constitution of Namibia, that a member of Parliament is placed like that deliberately, so that every citizen can access,
Mr. Nyoba.
Okay. I don't even know what to say anymore. Okay, so good morning. Thanks for having the Legal Assistance Center. Saying, and some of the other colleagues, you know, I'm a bit confused. If you talk about accessibility to the standing committees, what do you mean by that? Is it now getting the information that we are required to get, or is it actually have access to the honorable members? It's really confusing. For the LEC's point of view, we need to be, robust in some of these approaches. I think in terms of involving public members, we start at a very late stage. I think, once the bill is tabled, or there's already a draft bill on the table to discuss, the public members was not part of any process before that bill was drafted. And for that, it's already an injustice to the public. I mean, why can't we start at the earlier stage to introduce this before it's tabled in Parliament? It's like it's been drafted. The public must come in and give input. I think that process needs to be revised, needs to be planned, because even at secondary level, we have school kids that are interested in politics, that are interested in the lawmaking process. You understand? But I can't remember having a school group that will understand what is the Parliamentary Standing Committee on this, or the CCR members or cabinet. I think we have to come down a little bit more to the community level. Start early. That is what we are saying. Also, even if I can access Parliament or any other committee, it's like Graham was saying, the information is outdated. We don't need to put outdated information on our websites. It is confusing, it's misinforming the public, and also when we are having these discussions about the bills, about what's going to be discussed, how many of these are actually in the media? How many are actually translated in the local languages? Majority of people don't really follow cabinet discussions or parliament discussions on TV. How many times do we really put it out there in the Damaranama or Kwekwe language? These are simple, practical solutions or options that we have to consider. Because laws are already complicated as it is. But if we don't do it for the layman to understand, just the other day I saw on the civil society organization, there is something about the lawmaking process that was published. I mean, the LEC has done this 10 or 5 years ago. It's there. Don't duplicate work. Let's work together, like my colleague was also saying. You know, we are here to really see how best can we advance each other. Civil society will never be the enemy of parliament, never. But, you know, accessing information is a crucial misstep done by a lot of the parliamentarian committees. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have done the first 20 minutes of the 1 hour, and it means we have rationed our 3 minutes very well. The floor wants to make comments on the point also. Yes, we are in parliament. Everybody wants a piece of the action. That is correct. Yes, but can we allow the panelists to exhaust the discussion and then we come back to the floor? Yeah. So let's go to the second question. What I hear during this first question is that, yes, we are not giving enough information when it comes to that is given is sometimes outdated, and that the information is also not in language that is accessible to a lot of people. I know there were issues raised about bills coming late or getting to the public late, but the issue is that that part is not in the control of Parliament. So the next question, where are the gaps and what are the barriers? The questions are coming from here to you. So the question is, where are the gaps and what are the barriers? Yes, Mr. Hopo, do you want to start?
Well, I think, you know, as far as I can remember, very few bills are referred to public hearings. And one of the things that I pick up about Parliament, and MPs can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the drafting process takes so long for bills to come to Parliament, but by the time they get to the National Assembly, there's a sense of pressure that there's a rush to try and get these laws through as quickly as possible. And I think the classic example is the budget, where you have to sit day and night. And that's, you know, there's no, ideally some aspects of the budget should be referred to public hearings, but there's no time for that. And that's partly because of the schedule that we, at best, table the budget in late February. The financial year, government's financial year starts on April the 1st. We are often still debating the budget in the National Assembly in March or even April, and then passing it on to the National Assembly, National Council, also putting them under pressure to very quickly go through all the votes. And therefore, you know, the budget is not properly considered, and there's no space for public input. There's no chance for public hearings. And if we want to move towards open budgeting, accountable budgeting, we need to think about that schedule and work out how we can change that so that we're not passing the budget within the financial year that has already started, which also, of course, causes problems in terms of spending accurately. We blame ministries later for not spending their money, but, you know, when they're not getting their budget and they have to operate on the previous budget for a number of months, that's not helping. So I just think we need to allow Parliament the space to properly and the time to properly debate really crucial issues and legislation, and within that create the space for public input and public hearings. Yes, we could actually discuss a lot about what happens before bills get to Parliament, but it's not really the subject today. But it is inadequate that we have such a long drafting period for many bills, and yet we're just saying now that the consultations with the public in the drafting stage are inadequate. So the problem does start there, but it's also amplified and compounded by what happens in Parliament.
Thank you. Yes. Who wants to have the next bite? Honorable Murua.
Thank you very much. I think Mr. Robert has said exactly what I was thinking of, and that is many a times bills are being brought to the House and then passed very hastily without Parliament taking them for public hearing. And that in itself is, in my opinion, something, a disservice to the nation itself. I think because at the end of the day, people are saying, yes, you made that law, you made that law. It is you who made that law. And that in itself is something that we need to address. The second thing is, one of the barriers is when it comes to the allocations that are being done to Parliament itself. I think the resource allocation to Parliament, as Honourable Opindi has said, is so little that many a times the committees does not have enough resources to even go out and do outreach to the communities. That in itself, I think, is one thing that we need to improve upon as a government, because the public needs to be informed by the legislature as to what is coming and give their inputs before a bill should really be passed, so that the possible amendments could then be built in, instead of passing a bill and then coming back after 1 or 2 years, the same bill being amended. That process is very cumbersome, and therefore I think we need to address that. So that is in short what I would like to say about the barriers that are there. The barriers are the resource allocation. The other thing is when it comes to the budget, the citizens, in my opinion, would like to see whether the budget allocations are really being used for the intended purposes at the end of the day. And in one way or the other, a parliamentary committee has to find out what the intentions of the citizens were and whether those intentions through the allocation has been reached. We are having many a times projects and allocations are being done in a certain area, but those projects are never undertaken. And that creates a situation where money is to come back to the treasury. And that in itself is one thing that has to be also looked at from the committee side, I think. Thank you.
Odinga.
The first question and the second question is, in my view, the first question is talking about accessibility, whether there's... Now the second question is the gap. But now it's not narrowed down whether is it all the gaps or is the gap that create accessibility. Now, I think the question is a follow-up to the first one, and therefore it's a gap that create inaccessibility. So when we express ourselves to the challenges that exist with the accessibility, we talk about the gaps that are there.
Okay.
So I wanted to say that when, for example, the information to the citizen is not known how they must approach Parliament, what are the channels that they have to follow to access Parliament. And that is a gap that must be closed. We have to deal with that gap, because if you compare Rwanda or Kenya or almost all the eastern countries and some of the SADC countries like Tanzania and Botswana here and Zambia, the member of parliament is resourced, because each member of parliament is having a full office in the constituency, because they are elected from the constituency, and is resourced, so that, because my argument is, doesn't matter whether there's accessibility or not. If people just are talking to you and you just listen, here come 20 years and they are still repeating the same thing, and you are not able to solve that problem, then the accessibility itself is useless. There's no need then. People can just stay at home. They don't need, because whether they access you or they don't access you, the member of parliament is not resourced to deal with the issues that is brought to the member of parliament. To me, that gap must be filled. Those are the gaps. We need to deal with those gaps so that a person who is a member of parliament, if challenges are brought, if the citizens have accessed and delivered to the doors of the member of parliament, that member of parliament must go back to the citizen and tell them whether it's successful or not successful and why. To me, those are the gaps that need to be dealt with until we finish, including the gap that we are talking. As we are at parliament, the people don't know that the decision is not here, it's somewhere else. We don't know where's the decision, we don't know where's the power. I came here to solve problems, so union sent me here. But the power is not here to decide, it's somewhere, and when you go where you're hearing is the power to decide, that person doesn't have also power. You go to, and no one is having the power. Now how can you function? How can you function? Now you want to do, but you can't. And the citizen don't know that that is the case. So those are the gaps that need to be filled so that we can move forward.
It was a mouthful. Honorable Tingara, are we aware that some an existence of a National Assembly or a Parliament? I'm fortunate that I have been with the Deputy Speaker on her outreach program 2 weeks back, I think. We went down rural, deep rural. And I think that the constituency councillors were so deliberate. Whilst their offices are on the main road, they took us into the deep, deep, deep rural of their constituency. No access to road, no clinic. The teachers were teaching there, young people. And that's why I was saying that for them, it comes from the heart, the teaching, and not salary collectors. Because if a young woman stands there in front of you and says that I've been here for 5 years or 6 years, and show us where their houses are and how it looks like. That was now what basically the Deputy Speaker's intention was of bringing National Assembly to the people, to the citizens. Some of them didn't even know what is a National Assembly. So I think that we must improve as a National Assembly as to how we are trying to reach our citizens. Because those ones in those deep, deep, deep down rural areas are voters, first and foremost. And we have a responsibility, all of them, all of us, about them. The staff members of National Assembly will be unemployed if there is no National Assembly and if there are no members of Parliament. So as the members of Parliament will be unemployed if there are no voters. Because in fact, we are representatives of everybody else, including those ones without proper road networks, without no water, without no electricity. There are people that do not know what is happening in Namibia because there is no radio network, there is no television, there is no nothing. I was there. I felt the pain with them. So we must improve as a collective on service delivery and the communication to reach our citizens. So I submit.
Yes, Madam Engelbert.
I really agree with what the Honorable is saying. That is why I was go back to the communities, to the rural areas. Even the Honorable Speaker was referring to it. You know, we must really go back to where we need to be. That is why I really enjoyed and I support the statement. The one other thing that is really worrisome is the outdated laws in Namibia. Can we please try to prioritize some of these laws that are here since 1960s and the 1963s and the what? 1947. You know, at LEC we have all our laws pre and post independence on our website, and it's shocking to know that there is a law existing in Rehoboth that only applies to Rehoboth called the Buster whatever. You know, it is really shocking. We have to prioritize what laws needs to change, needs to be repealed, needs to be amended. I have a list of laws that was passed by Parliament last year, in the previous year, in this year. We are already entering the exiting 2023. In how many laws was passed this year? We have to look at practical ways to deal with the lawmaking process. Laws must be in our education system. Parliament committees like the Honorable one, people don't even know what a parliament is, what cabinet is, what the National Assembly is. Our school kids, if you ask some of them, even here in Windhoek, they will not know what is parliament. They have never been here, they don't know about what it entails. Back then, so 5 years ago, we were seeing how many actually new laws were passed by Parliament. And it was really, it's a good number of laws that was passed, but do we prioritize which laws that we need to pass for this year, or are we just passing laws because, yeah, it's okay to pass this law now? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Everything that we have been discussing, and I really implore a new chairman to maybe to come to an end, because it's becoming, we're saying the same thing literally. And it goes to the foundation of what I have said before. If you have an institution that is not properly constituted, I have led an organization before. If that organization is not properly constituted, there's just no way it's going to function. Even the issue that has been described of making laws, it is true, there are laws that come from the past, but the law process, the lawmaking process, is at the Ministry of Justice, at the legal drafters, not even here at Parliament. Constitutionally, the powers, I think from, if you look at from Article 44, 45, 46, and especially 63, which gives the absolute authenticity of functions and powers of the National Assembly. It's very clear on that. But it does not happen here because the capacities are not here. Even the power for members of Parliament to introduce a private bill. How will you provide a private bill if you do not have resources? And if I speak with no fear of contradiction, I think there was only one private bill so far in the whole term. Is because the functions lie somewhere else. And therefore, the sooner we improve the functionality of the National Assembly and truly delink it from the executive, we need to delink it from the executive. in terms of its operation. Then the National Assembly will start operating properly. The other issues, of course, that are mentioned, it's some of the issues are really turning the public off, especially the issue of accountability. I have dealt with, in this session, we have dealt with annual reports from as far back as 2002. Now, who does that? Because accountability is supposed to be a now. And because there is lack of that accountability, other issues like corruption and so on will then get into the pictures, because we are every year appropriating money that we cannot even ourselves account for. Thank you.
All right, you see, I'm being marginalized by this machine now. I think I have a few points to add to the barriers. Now, I think also one of the barriers, if you really look at the whole government system, how they function, they have a very complex decision-making process that slow down the engagement, the information transmission to the relevant end receiver. That, I think, if we can work on some of those areas, that we may maybe elevate or get away with some of this barrier. The other one is the resource constraint. It's not just, I'm hearing now, because I was relying on Parliament to say that they are swimming in resources now. We are saying that we are also struggling resource-wise. Equally, civil society are also struggling resource-wise, and my point was that we should also be reaching out to Parliament as well, to prompt them to act or to pass information on time, and because of the resource constraint, we are also not doing that. So I think, Prof, you see, I'm here. We also need to cater for these things as well, from Parliament as well. Make resources available. My last comment is that I don't know whether there is a standalone communications entity in Parliament that transmits parliamentary information on a regular basis, so that we don't have a situation where bills are being passed without being known by the publics. If there is nothing like that, it's about time that we create communications department within the parliaments that will, on a regular basis, inform the public well ahead in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I know the colleagues around the table are itching. Yeah. But let's do it this way. After the last question, we'll all get around. There is one more question. Thank you. There is one more question. What are the proposals to enhance public participation? What proposals do we have to enhance public participation? If there are no responses from the table, then I can send it. Okay. This one, the table will do 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether we are hearing, because as we are sitting here as a panel, we are in two groups.
Yes.
The one group
Yes.
are members of Parliament who know exactly what are the challenges which need to be tackled
So,
before we can deal with problems that we are raising. Now the others, like my sister here, she doesn't know those problems, why Parliament is not functioning.
Yes.
She doesn't know. She thinks that it's deliberate, that Parliament is not, with all the things that is happening, is just a failure. but Parliament is having a serious problem. We are keeping on raising this, and if that is ignored, and then we continue to hammer, say no, work, when the environment or the conducive, the work environment is not corrected, we will continue. So we have carried on for 33 years, and we can put other complaints. Unless we solve the problem of Parliament, that Parliament must truly exist to be a true Parliament, that it can decide, it can move the way it can receive, it can do as Parliament. We have no one member of Parliament or cabinet doesn't know. We know, all of us. We know that we have gone to other parliaments and see that there's many better way to function. And we went and copy those examples and promise to emulate. But when they come here, because the structure here, the system here, everything come and fall, and it can't work. That is the first thing. I think Honorable Toby is keeping on saying the same thing. I'm keeping on saying the same thing. That until we deal with that, all the complaints will not work. It will continue for another 30 years. We need to solve that one, dependency, so that Parliament can take decisions. Because now it must. I know, but it's not. But we know. How can we deal with these matters? Because all of us who are in this problem are aware what are the problems. It's that of not being. Parliament is not functioning on its own. It doesn't have a Parliamentary Service Commission. A Parliamentary Service Commission is so important. It's the last step of Parliament to be independent. And that has been delayed. So the work of Parliament, for which is supposed to be done by the Parliamentary Service Commission, was given temporarily to the Public Service Commission to help Parliament since 1990. Up to now, is still temporarily, the Public Service Commission is doing it. And the Public Service Commission cannot understand the work of Parliament because they are for public service. It's not for Parliament. And until that problem is sorted, we will not move. We will remain the way we are. Everything, including accessibility, including the lawmaking process, the decisions can't be valid, cannot be implemented. That's what we're trying to say.
Where's the bill?
You've made that point very clear. Yes, Honorable Mura.
Thank you very much. I think I would first apologize for taking you back on the gaps or barriers. When the speaker was speaking in his opening remarks, he said a society should be built on trust, confidence, transparency, and inclusivity. Now, when we are making laws, the Parliament is the legislature that has to make laws. But besides that, our laws are drafted in such a way and being passed in such a way that the ministers are having the power to make regulations as to how this law is to be applied. Now, that immediately, in my opinion, changed the intention of the law. We can look at the pension issue of 55 years or whatever. That was not there when the law was made, but through the regulation, these issues came in and the blame is squarely put on Parliament. Whereas the regulation was coming from the office of the minister. The problem here is that we do not even discuss the regulations in the House. They are never discussed or approved. If it was as such that they make the regulations and then table them in Parliament, that they be discussed and amended or approved or whatever way, then we could have taken the blame. But in this case, it's another way of drafting a bylaw, which is not their function. That's my opinion. That's one of the barriers that we are having. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's clear.
Yeah, I will identify myself. My name is Martin Machip. I'm from the Namibian Education Coalition. There's a saying in my language, Chinese, that says, "That adbata bripti koba amahu." So, it's Damara. Yeah. Okay. Now, and when we came, before the panel discussion, there were two presentations, and these two presentations were so eloquently referred to the Parliament as the House of Laws. And I'm just making this point because all these contributions that the panel has made would have been solved if there was a legal framework. Yeah, because what we do not have in this cooperation between the civil society as well as the Parliament is the legal framework. What is it? What is it that entitles the civil society to hold the Parliament accountable? And that law we do not have. There is no law that regulates, for example, how the government or the government of the Republic of Namibia should be accountable to the civil society. That does not exist. And as long as that vacuum exists, we cannot, for example, come to the standing committees and say, okay, you did not invite us, you did not do this and this, you did not do this. Because what we have observed is that the image of the civil society had been tarnished by several things that happened possibly between the period 1990 up to 1995, because the civil society was mostly political. And most of the executive branch of the members, the ministries, they regard the civil society as some kind of an opposition, while we are actually acting as non-state actors who are in a supplementary role, trying to assist the government where they are not. Like, for example, when Madam Honorable Member, the third one, Gaula, was referring to the visits that they had made to the remotest areas of the country. Yet we are there. The civil society is already there. So we know these needs, we know these problems. We write proposals and we implement projects and programs in these areas and to assist these people. And when the government, when there is no legal framework where the government should be forthcoming and assisting the civil society, then it becomes a problem area. It becomes a problem for the government as well. So I would, like Ms. Gaula would say, Honorable Gaula would say, submit. Honorable Cooper would submit. I would like to submit that we need to maybe first and foremost think as a House of Laws, the House of Laws, that to set up a legal framework, whether it is an act of parliament or whether it is a policy that would, for example, enable the engagement of the civil society with the government in the first place. So I submit.
Thank you so much. Yes, yeah. I saw the hand of Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have to thank you, Doctor, and also the panelists. I should think, because of time, this workshop and other many workshops should have been enriched. Should we also include some members? Should we have include some members of the executive? Because in terms of our constitution, a minister are part and parcel of the member of parliament. And the issue, some of the issue we have mentioned here, they have to do with them. For example, the automatic referral of the bill, which my sister from Legal Assistance Center have stated, as well as the outdated law. We could have some select on member of the executive to be with us so that they can also understand the need for Parliament to have Parliament service commissions. Because if we talk like that, we seem to talk to ourselves. And the other leg supposed to understand that. I would like also to touch issue which is related to bullet number 1 and bullet number, the last bullet and the first bullet. How should we, and how should we improve the current engagement? A lot has been said, but I thought the understanding and the relationship between the Parliament and civil society should not be seen as an end in itself, but a means to an end. And I would like also to put the responsibility, I should think prudently and humbly ask the colleague from civil society to be in contact with the subnational level of our government in the region where you are. You must be in contact with the governor's office. You must be in contact with the councillor there, because whenever our committee goes, they contact those people. And I should think when the committee engages in these things, I don't think you will be excluded, or nobody's going to say you should not be part and parcel of these discussions. For example, I just have to add quickly to what Honorable Paula has stated. I led the delegation to Ohangwena region, and we visited almost all the constituencies apart from the 2. And I would like, I'm sure here there are some people from Ohangwena region, and I would like to ask, did you attend my deliberation? Yeah. If you didn't attend, it means there is a need for you to be in contact with the subnational level of leaders. Could you have been in contact with your councillor, your what you call, the governor? You could know which the deputy speaker is coming. And it's really enriching. It's also one of the way, I'm not saying the only way, it's one of the ways, the outreach program of the deputy speaker, one of the way we can reach the grassroots, apart from you, colleague. Quickly, I would like to comment on the colleague who said the civil society, we can think in terms of the civil society to be part and parcel of the committee. It cannot work apart from you, a participant, because the Parliament, the committee, and they are elected. What you could do is to be in contact, as I have stated, with us to improve, with the subnational leader, and be there wherever they go. You just come, I think. But to be part component of them, I don't think it will work. Finally, the colleague who said, how far do our children know? We have a children's parliament, even currently. If you see, there were a lot of kids here, and they are also here. They know. As long as whatever we learned here, whether children parliament or us, it should not end here. You should go and deliver to your constituency as a member of civil society. Thank you so much.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nafimani Mkoshi. I'm a first-year student at the University of Namibia, and I'm representing, if not more than 10 civil societies. So I just wanted to commend the panelists for actually pointing out the issue of young people not being involved or educated or aware of things like civic education. That's not because we do not want to be. Okay, that's not because we do not want to be part or we are just being ignorant. It's because
Just leave it. Don't touch it.
it's broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's because if you look at, like you guys mentioned, the grassroots level, even if you do go into the communities and inform people about the parliament, you inform the young people about this civic education, they will not listen, because rather than listening about what we are talking about, they are thinking about what to eat. When you look at the rural areas, people there are thinking about working, getting money to meet basic needs for them to sustain their livelihoods. So if we go into the communities without first resolving the issue of poverty, then I don't think it's necessary for us to be talking about civic education, because people will obviously not be interested. And I'm speaking from experience. The only reason why I'm here is because I was handed the opportunity from grade 6, grade 7, to actually be informed and aware about my rights. And there is actually a saying that I like, which says, Namibia is a democratic country without democrats. And then another issue, yes, Namibia is a democratic country without democrats, which basically means that we are living in a democratic space, but then people do not understand what democracy, civic education, your rights and responsibilities as citizens are. And then another thing I want to know is the separation of powers, because this is a very crucial point. I'm speaking under correction. Why is it that the same people that are in cabinet are the same people that are also in the parliament? Are the same people that are in parliament? Where is the separation of powers there? Because now all these things are interlinked, and when they are making decisions, they are no longer going to be independent, rather dependent, because some are in the executive, and then again at the same time they are also in the legislative. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Dampers, Uhuru Dampers, yes. Okay.
Thank you so much. Members, the floor is mine now. Okay, please. I want to thank Parliament for this opportunity. Last year, January, we were just meeting, interacting with the parliamentary staff. This year, we have our elected leaders, and it really feels good to interact. I want to start with what my young sister said there. The Africa Peer Review Mechanism has prepared a report on Namibia, and one of the issues being raised there is the effectiveness of Parliament not being hindered by the presence of the executive in Parliament. Now, members of Parliament go and visit various parliaments throughout the world. So we need to one day have a discussion about 33 years after independence, is it a good thing or a bad thing to have executive members in Parliament? Because some of us in civil society think the executive overshadows Parliament, and Parliament, it compromises the independence of Parliament, but that's a discussion for another day. The second point is, we, as much as we would like to participate in the standing committees and the public hearings and so on, we are concerned about the effectiveness of this method, because when the report is tabled in National Assembly, National Council, the report is noted. There are recommendations made. How can we, civil society and Parliament, work to make sure that these recommendations get implemented by the executive or whoever needs to implement them? Last year, National Council told us they have a committee that is chaired by the Deputy Chairperson of Council with the chairpersons of the standing committees, and their role is to monitor the implementation of the recommendations from the Parliament. So Parliament needs to, National Assembly needs to tell us how can we collaborate to make sure that the recommendations that are coming through the standing committees really have effect, and that even after 3 months, 6 months, you can call back the EDs, the ministers, and ask, what did you do about the recommendations that we have made in our public hearings? The final point is, we don't really see Parliament being active in budget formulation, and there is some oversight role on the budget, but when we come to Parliament, we feel so handicapped, because Parliament just looks at the budget, makes a lot of political statements, and the budget goes through as is. There's maybe 1 or 2 times that there was an error corrected on the floor of Parliament, but Parliament, in our view as citizens, is toothless when it comes to the national budget. So what mechanisms can we introduce so that citizens can participate, can have an input in the formulation of budget using Parliament as a platform? Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the civil leader and the delegation for being here to discuss this very important issue of the cooperation between the civil society and then the Parliament, how to access us. Now, secondly, also I would like to thank you also, because as I came to Parliament, I came to realize that the civil organizations are there and they can help, they can come in. We are having here at Parliament a group called a working group. A working group is in 2 committees, a committee of gender and a committee which is led by me of human resource and community development. So this morning I heard also from the leader as explaining that they are more in the working with the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, and then community development. So I think we have to work together for the betterment of our people. So now, just like a small scenario, what happened and what I don't agree also sometimes with the civil societies or some groups. We were having a public hearing in some of the regions. And then as we traveled, we came at a place where we have explained as members of Parliament why we were there. And as at that moment, we were impartial. We just gather information to report back to the committee and then to Parliament. But when we came there, we realized a certain group which came there, called themselves as civil organizations or whatever, and then they were complaining and then making for us the meeting difficult. So now we don't agree with this, and then it was noisy, and then it was not good. But anyway, we allowed them to bring their voices also. We said, no, what do you want? Come in. Explain what you want, and then we said it's fine. For us, it's just to take note and then report back, as I have mentioned. But when we went to another constituency, they were also again there, apparently advocating for the civil organization or the rights of the people. So that things, maybe when we send also people to go out, we should also explain why they should do this and why they should not do that. So that is just a small thing which I wanted to share with you so that you can know that we are together, we allow you, we are working with you. I think Ms. Kabida is one of the people which we are working with us. But for now also, as you have said that your office is now here, we will use it, we will come to you. The 7 chairpersons under the leadership of Honorable Kasingo, we can do much and save our people. So it's just what I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
They want to know your name.
My name is Nono Kashingithiwa, the chairperson of Human Resource and Community Development Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Nantu, yes, there is a teacher there. I was a former chairperson of Nantu in Maheke region, a former principal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Sure. Yes, Uncle Paul.
Good morning. My name is Paul Vleermees. I am working with a civil society organization called RISE Namibia. There are a lot of good points. I will not mentioned them. So I'll quickly move to 2 points that I've got. And one is we have been informed that there are phone numbers of the parliamentarians, and the parliamentarians are accessible. But this is my first time to hear this story, where for a person that is sitting in Karasburg, does he or she know about this existing facility and this right to be able to call a parliamentarian? Because those who know me, those who don't know me in this room, they are too young. So those who know me knows me that if I had known already those numbers, honestly, on land reform, you would have received a lot of calls. But me as a person that regard myself as an advocate for all my life, I've never worked in a government circle. I've always been an advocate in a civil society. I don't know. So one of the things that we need to improve on in order to improve access is the issue of these phone numbers. It's also the things regarding what Comrade Graham mentioned and all the other points. That's one. Another point is about the oversight function that the Parliament has. I think with the naming of the committees are blurred in such a way, and important issues are buried under these names. For instance, me, the issue of decentralization is so close to my heart. But when I look at your committees, I don't know which committee to approach. And I've never heard also the Parliament doing an oversight function on this very important point, which is decentralization. Honestly, I've heard so many oversight visits in the field, but I've never heard the Parliament having an oversight visit to my region or to various areas on decentralization. Let me give you a practical example how bad government is in its promises, or the Parliament, in its promises regarding decentralization. For instance, in a place which is more than 100 kilometers outside Marindal, Aranos, for instance, you have got all most of the services there as far as death of a person is concerned. There is a hospital, so the hospital will declare the person as dead. There is a funeral undertakers. The funeral undertakers will come to your doorsteps to offer you their services to you to bury this person. There is a police station. Everything is there. But the death certificate, I have to hitchhike. I have to spend my little income to go to Marindal to get a birth certificate. So there are issues of this. You see, and the poor lady or the poor single mother who is heading that family has to travel to Marindal to spend that money which was supposed to be spent on something else. So coming back to my point, the telephone and the naming of the committees, even if I ask now which committee in the Parliamentary Standing Committee deals with decentralization? What is HR compared to decentralization? Thank you. The lady downstairs will ask that. HR is my staff member. Thank you, sir. Okay. You don't get the point. You don't get the point.
Are you done? We've heard your two pressing points. Thank you.
Yes. I'll be briefed because of time. Maybe starting on what the senior have said there. We know you, even though we are not from that generation. but we know you. Yes, we have been hearing, we have been seeing you doing those work here. But what I want to say is that on what you have said, recently with my Committee of Gender Equality, Social Development, I'm talking about the renaming. I want you to understand the names now. Gender Equality, Social Development and Family Affairs. And that is a committee that has got oversight over the Ministry of Gender and the Ministry of Health. As I'm speaking, we are coming from Aranos recently. It's a week ago. We are just coming from Aranos. And those issues that you are raising is issues that initially we went to assess the health situation in the country. And that is what we went also to pick up, that issues of birth certificates and all those other issues. Because we are saying, even as a committee that comes only for health facilities, does not mean that we can also not take other issues that the communities are raising there, you see, and this is what we have done. Obviously, we will bring it back to Parliament and engage those ministries so that such issues can be addressed. Now, coming to the civil society organization, I think as my colleague has already alluded to, Honorable Nono Kashingiswa, we have got what we call National Working Group that deals with issues like also sexual reproductive health and rights and all those issues. And we have got all those, we have the component of civil society and everybody is in that committee, meaning our committees are really engaging. We are already working with civil society. Ms. Salim can also attest to that. That's where we are saying as Parliament we are open, but there are issues that we really need to address these issues together. Maybe when we are moving towards the way forward, as to what the Deputy Speaker has already alluded to, maybe we need to also have more engagement like this, especially with the executive, so that we really address these type of issues together, as we are saying, because some of the issues, when you listen, we understand, because those are also some of the predicament that we are also finding ourselves in, maybe when it comes to separation of power and all these things. But as we are talking about framework, this is as per the constitution that you first become a member of Parliament before you are appointed as a minister. You understand? Those are the issues. But as you said, maybe that is a discussion for other days. That's why I'm just urging that we need to have more engagement like this, so that we find each other, so that it cannot be them and us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. I know we are itching, but members must go back to Parliament, so we need to. So 2 last interventions, one there and one here.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Kanjungu. I am from the Nutrition and Food Security Alliance of Namibia. I just have then a short question in summary of the discussions we've had here. There was a presentation that was done, and some of the platforms that were given that we're discussing is petitions, that we can engage members of Parliament is through petitions, is through public hearings. So the public hearings, from my understanding, will have to wait for Parliament to have have the oversights to go around the regions for us to be able to, discuss with them when they are going around the regions, or otherwise then the petition. I think my question is, then we have said, we have agreed here, civil societies are not the enemy. We help, we are here to help, we want to be able to engage. Apart from being subpoenaed when Parliament see it fit or when they remember which organization is there, how do we reach out to Parliament without petitioning, without waiting for a public consultation in Oshana? Is there any other platform that if we see there is a really pertaining urgent issue and we need a really platform where we discuss for an hour or we make a presentation as civil society? We are an alliance, so it means we are an umbrella body. So where we can present on behalf of the member organization, what is that platform? What is the first step? Who is there that we reach out to? We're really happy, Honorable, to hear their working groups. Who are those people? I think as we enter the way forward, we really want to have that. Who is the entry point for us? And what are those platforms? How do we really strengthen this engagement, whether it's different working groups, whether it's different committees? These engagements are good and well, but as you can see, hands and how long we've been here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, help us, Honorable Kasoto.
Yeah, just a quick response to that. It's only that, as we are saying, as we are saying, are we together? Just to respond to what he's saying. As we are saying, we are the representative of the people. Now what we are saying is that, let's say for argument's sake, as I said that my committee is the one having oversight over the Ministry of Health. Let's say civil society organization have issues that pertaining to health. You can write to the committee and then you engage the committee. It's open. Yes, you are willing to do that. It's open to engage the committee, not only that time, because what we also do is that when we also receive these petitions, we make sure that we also invite stakeholders, meaning it will also include civil society, you see. Those platforms are there. You can utilize them. Yeah, you can request the meeting with a committee, with that specific committee. You write to them, you will engage us, we sit and talk about those issues. Thank you.
Dr. Tsekpo, I think Mrs. Joyce Nakuta is here, who is the Director of Committee Services. I think it will just be good and prudent for her to inform the civil society organizations and members who are here on the different committees, which days they are sitting, the ways how they can get in. And there are some chairpersons and deputy chairpersons sitting here, and it will just be good for her to do that if we can honor her.
Like I said, we are running over our time.
Dr. Chekbo, with your permission, please. The basic.
Yes. Yes, good day. My name is Erlinde Lucia Tibede. I'm also a member of the parliament. What I only wanted to answer is about the language barrier, what she was talking about. People also are questioning about the bills we are making, and we are only making in English, because some people in the rural areas sometimes listen to us. And this is the answer. Sometimes we wanted to do it in a language, but there is no translator. You understand? If you get somebody, you must pay it. Because nothing is free in this world, because when you bring somebody in and wanted to do it, you must pay that person to translate for you, because there is nothing the parliament can do. But this was your question, so I cannot leave it without somebody did not answer that question for you. But there is no translators in the parliament. Thank you.
So yes, my moderation is closing. A few things that I will say before I hand over to the program director. It's the fact that yes, we come to realize that our mode of communication is sometimes outdated, particularly the websites. So practically those ones we can do quickly. The timetable for committee sittings, the fact that they are not being advertised effectively are also things that can happen, because I know in other parliaments they would have had extensive publication of every meeting, and they would have even called officially for submissions and received submissions before the public hearing itself takes place. The issue of resources has dominated the discussion. Yes, we know. Sometimes when I tell friends in civil society that Parliament is not well resourced, they wonder. But it came out here today that they still believe that Parliament is not well resourced, or they don't believe it. But that is the reality. All the things we are asking for, dedicated people to service the website, to put the communication and all others, if you know the number of staff that are available for these things, we come to realize that, yes, we have a long way to go. The systems, particularly the bills, things that happen in the executive where Parliament has no control, it's one of the issues. So then, the issues of the time we have in Parliament to do those things some often may not allow the public consultations, even though it is being understood that by the time even these things get to Parliament, particularly the bills, it is too late to do public consultation. But that is not it. In other parliaments, yes, the executive will do its consultation. They will draft the bill because they are having the day-to-day challenges. They will bring it, and Parliament will also have a window to do its own consultation, particularly on the subsidiary legislations, the regulations that you talked about. Very often there is a committee in Parliament that will review all those regulations. Regulations don't happen in other countries without parliamentary involvement. So, but then we lack the resources here, as you have all indicated. The legal services are so limited in Parliament, so that even Parliament going through those regulations, technically, it's a lot of work. But these are a few of the things, the same with the budget process. What is required for Parliament to do an input into the approval and not be seen as a rubber stamp, all requires a lot of resources, just as the Ministry of Finance has an array of economists, and Ministry of the Planning, National Planning Commission has all the chief technical advisors and planning officers. Parliament needs the same thing. So we need to look at some of these. I know, Honorable Mura, your hands are still up. I hope...
I'm giving it up because I see you are giving a summary.
Yes, and I was going to hand it over to the moderator to help with...
Thank you very much, Dr. Tsekpo. I think we need to quickly do a number of things. One is to give the panelists an opportunity to do some concluding remarks. If any of them, all of you don't need to take the floor, but if there are members who would like to take the floor to make some conclusions, Dr. Tsekpo has done an excellent job in summarizing the discussions that were on the floor. And if you feel a need to say something in conclusion, you are welcome to do that, but you are not obliged. To quickly respond to the issues that were raised by the young lady from the Nutrition Alliance, in terms of submissions, I think in my presentation I spoke about any person having the right to make a formal submission to any committee. We receive communications on a daily basis from citizens that we then, depending on the relevance, send to a particular committee. So, and then the committee would look into the matter. We have indicated that we are part of the state. Some of these issues relates to the executive. And I have also indicated in a democracy, we work within the framework that the law or the constitution is giving you. So these matters might be referred to a particular ministry. You may be aware that Parliament is not an implementing agency. We are a lawmaking body. So here we work on frameworks, we work on policies, we work on laws. When it comes to issues of implementation, it is with the executive. What we do in terms of issues that are raised by citizens, we go back to our role as keeping the executive accountable, meaning then that in the oversight role of Parliament, these issues will be taken up. But when it comes to implementing some of the things that citizens are expecting from Parliament, it becomes very difficult. But we still have that responsibility to follow up with the executive on how that matter is implemented and how they account to the citizens. So, secondly, on the issue that was raised by Mr. Vleermeis on who are these standing committees and what are their names and when are they sitting? I also want to apologize. Dr. Tsekpo has indicated that at Parliament we really have a scarcity of skills. For over 2 years, we do not have a director responsible for IT. So that's why you find the gaps that you have highlighted. In legal, for over 2 years, we do not have a director in legal. That's why you find that some of the issues that the Committee on Constitution and Legal Affairs are to deal with are not attended to. So committee services at the moment is the only directorate that is fully, staffed. So we are really hampered in many ways. You have listened to the honorable members highlighting some of the challenges, structural challenges that are there in Parliament. These are just some of the issues that makes it very difficult for us to work efficiently. But coming to the schedule of committee meetings, on Mondays we have 2 committees sitting. You know, the chambers are in sitting Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. But from Mondays to Thursdays we have committee meetings, and we have 8 standing committees. So the standing committees of gender equality, social development, and family affairs are sitting on Monday, together with the committee on information communication technology. On Tuesdays, we have the committees, and I'm struggling to open my computer. We have the Committee of Natural Resources and the Committee on Human Resources and Community Development. Now, these committees are sitting at 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, respectively. Then on Wednesdays, we have the Committees of Foreign Affairs, Defense and Security, and the Committee of Economics and Public Administration, sitting on Thursdays, 1 at 9 o'clock, 1 at 11 o'clock. Those are Wednesdays.
Ms. Nakuta?
I'm sorry, on Wednesdays, we are sitting, both committees are sitting at 9 o'clock.
And 11 standing rules.
The members don't want me to present this, but they were telling me to tell the public. Now, on Thursdays, we have the committees on public accounts and the Committee on Constitution and Legal Affairs. They are sitting at 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock. So these are information that are supposed to be on our website, and we regret that it is not on the website. And members are welcome to inform us that you would like to attend these committee meetings. With that, honorable members, anybody who would like to make a final remark, very, very brief, Honorable Dingara, if you want to take the floor, very brief, but you are not the first one.
Yes.
The first one is Honorable Murorwa. And then we apologize also, when we started, we did not introduce the panel. So if the panel could also take time to quickly introduce themselves for those that we didn't. And then after that, we will break, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nakuta. I think I just wanted to come in on the last question that was asked, and that is, what are the proposals to enhance public participation? I think basically, we need to up our game when it comes to awareness raising. And I think it is a known fact that the CSOs are state actors. But if you look at agricultural cooperatives, those cooperatives are receiving funding from the Ministry of Agriculture. What is so wrong that we do not, in one way, find a way to provide funding for CSOs so that they could do this awareness raising work? I don't know how the mechanics should be, but I think as much as agricultural development in the cooperatives are important, it is also important that the masses needs to be informed as to what their government is busy with. And I think there are non-profit organizations registered with health, there are Article 21 organizations, there are NGOs that are in conservation, but each of those various fields has got votes that, or can develop votes that they can utilize to provide this funding, or the votes can be developed. I think if it is not the case, I was looking at my sister from NBC, then NBC has got an obligation to look at it. But the other thing that is of also great importance is, it is true people do not know what Parliament is doing. But I must say, the awareness raising should be based on letting people know what government is doing, because we as Namibians has developed a tendency to know government or lobby or network with government when we want employment, when we want a tender, when we want a fishing quota or an EPL. Then we know where to go. Then we know where to go. But when it comes to the other things, we do not apparently know. I don't blame anybody for that, but I think we should not, because of that, led behind to raise this awareness. And therefore, although I do not know which mechanisms needs to be used and how it has to be done via an umbrella or whichever way, there's a need that we need to really help our CSOs, Namibian CSOs, to really reach out on behalf of us, because we as Parliament cannot do it alone, honestly speaking. I thank you.
Okay, my name is Eliphas Dingara, a member of National Assembly. Now, I have taken the entire discussion in mind, and I was forced to think for an additional solution, because many nations are communicating. Most of the countries in East Africa, including Rwanda, have created systems to communicate to Parliament by the citizens across the country. They put stations, computers, which is waterproof computers at certain places all over the country, where a person can come, and if you want to communicate to, you will find there all the institutions that you can communicate. If you want to communicate to a committee, the committee's name is there, you press the committee. If you want to communicate to an individual, you press there and you write there. And then that communication goes to that where it is meant. I think that we can afford it as Namibian people. We have too much resources. We can install all over the country. We can provide so that the citizens can communicate to either committee, parliamentary committees. They choose where they want to communicate. Either they communicate to a certain member of parliament, or they want, and they submit from the village wherever they are. So I propose that in solving the problem of communication, access to parliament, we can create such a system that will help, and people must respond. And you see what I have seen in Rwanda, after you have sent the communication, you are also able to come there to find out how far did it go, who have responded, what responded. So you are able to follow up from the same thing. You come and without even calling. We can add this one to the accessibility that I talked about, that all members of parliament, they are representative of all the Namibian people, and they all have cell phones. Their cell phone numbers must be publicized so that all members of the Namibian people can communicate to each member. The telephone numbers.
Is it Parliament's number?
No, individual numbers, and all of us, we must speak to the citizens. All the citizens must choose, I want to speak to Paula, they must speak to you anytime.
Call me now.
No, we will get used. We must receive many calls, and we will get used, and we will solve many problems.
So my name is Graham Hopwood, Executive Director of the Institute for Public Policy Research. I do have another hat, which is the chairperson of the Civil Society Information Centre, also known as Civic Plus 264. And just on that note, I do think it's important that MPs try to understand the civil society landscape in Namibia. And I can refer you to two resources. IPPR has been producing an annual Civil Society Sustainability Report. It's available on our website. It will give you a very quick insight into the weaknesses and the strengths of civil society in Namibia. It's only 8 pages, so not a long read. Then secondly, Civic Plus 264 Civil Society Information Centre has a website. It has what, in an embryonic form, what the speaker was referring to in the sense of a directory of active civil society organisations listed by sector and contact details, so that politicians, policymakers and others can get in touch with the relevant CSOs. And we see government is using this quite a lot. National Planning Commission, different ministries are using this database of CSOs to consult, call people in for meetings and so on. But we don't really see Parliament utilising it at the moment. So that's one resource that's already there that can be used. I think the second point, very quickly, the Access to Information Law, you passed it, well done. It's now heading towards becoming operational in the next year, we hope. The key element of the Access to Information Law is that all public entities must disclose information proactively. So proactively means you don't wait for a member of the public, a journalist or whoever, to come to an institution to say we want to see this information. It has to be released automatically, presumably on websites and in other places. So that public entity definition applies to Parliament as well. So we're going to have to get serious about access to information because it's going to become the implementable law at some point in the next year. And a final point, just on the fact that there are people we've referred to in remote areas and so on who don't really have an understanding of Parliament, the Constitution on these issues. It's really, really important to utilise the radio because all the media surveys we do show that the radio still has the largest and widest reach in Namibia. So Parliament, please develop a communication strategy for all media, but especially the radio. Thank you for this opportunity. Thanks very much.
Right, thank you very much. My name is John Kasana. I'm the Executive Director of Conservation NGOs that is operating in Zambezi and Kunene regions, helping community to form conservancies to benefit from wildlife. I just very short, I just look at the room. This side is parliamentarians and that side is us, the civil society. We're all Namibian. This room, we're all the same. So, and I just want to say that life is like the shape of a kutu horn. So you might find ourselves today as a civil society advocates, like Honorable Morowa. I know he used to work for Save the Rhino, now he's a member of parliament. The same can also happen. The same can happen, we can be on this side as well. So I want to echo the sentiment of Honorable Morowa that civil societies, we are doing a lot for this country. We are keeping wildlife conflict at the minimum, and also the need for Parliament, for governments to come to our rescue and provide funding for our own people that are trying to help to meet government halfway, I think is more than needed today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I am Toby Alpindi. First of all, civil society is known as the third sector, which is between government and businesses. What is critical is that we need to probably demystify the concept, and we must condemn it and bury it today, and we must continue to bury it. That says civil society is somehow the enemy of the government. Yes. We need to do that. We have a small civil society, but very robust in its approach. Very robust, but underfunded as well. I was very interested to hear that the European Union has been doing a good job in funding, but we need more. But we also need even our own government to fund civil society. You know, yes. So that for me is what I would take from here. And then propagate really what is in the best interests of socio-economic development of our country, and in doing that, improve the livelihood of our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is it concluding remarks? Thank you very much for the soul-searching moment that we had. to see whether our efforts are effective and efficient. So if there is no effectiveness and efficiency, if there are no checks and balances, there is no way that you can move forward in order to see that whether you are on track or not. And it was a soul-searching moment for all of us, I believe. And moving forward, we must hold hands together. And let us not only meet each other at such platforms, but let's continue the debate informally as well. We can assist each other in some other ways as well. My name is Paula Cooper. I'm the Deputy Chairperson of the Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs. And my chairperson is seated there, very Honorable Cletus Karondo. We are meeting on Thursday, 11 o'clock. And that is the committee that the Speaker always refers to if there is a petition tabled. Say, we will forward it to the relevant standing committee. And that is the standing committee that looks at the content of a petition and refers it to the committee that will deal with the subject matter at hand. I thank you. And my committee members are also here. We are fully represented. Tingara.
No, I'm done. She say, I must say, I'm the deputy chairperson of the committee on decentralization. It's human resource. So thank you very much.
You don't want to give your telephone number? No, don't do
Let
that.
him give, he must be the first one.
Committee on HR and community development, the chairperson have spoken. And I have seen many members of the committee here, and we sit on Tuesday at 11 o'clock. So that is, so if there's a submission that come to the committee, we deal with it on every Tuesday. Every Tuesday we sit, if you, not during recess, we only sit during sitting of Parliament. Now Parliament started sitting on 6 up to 29, 6 September, up to 29 November. Every Tuesday of this period, we will be sitting.
Unless there is something else.
Unless, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Yolandi Engelbrecht. I'm the coordinator of the Gender Research and Advocacy Project of the Legal Assistance Center. I just want to say that I think sitting here in this room, we have a common goal. And the common goal is basically to look at the best interest of the public out there, our communities. And I think regardless of which side of the line you are, you always have to think about what is the best interest of our people of this beautiful country. In terms of the civil society organizations, we really value these type of discussions. We have different types of civil society organizations, and maybe not a lot of people knows what we are doing on a daily basis, but really we are in the communities. We are trying to see how best we can serve our communities, especially the marginalized, especially the the minorities in Namibia. But I can guarantee you, each and every civil society organization that are being represented here are willing to work with government, are willing to work with Parliament. We are really there to see how can we collaborate? How can we develop this country of us? So please press on our numbers. We, in most cases, are sitting with the information or maybe the expertise, the skills that Parliament might need to move forward. So I'm talking on behalf of everyone sitting here in terms of the civil society organizations. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. We are fast reaching the end of our engagement. In terms of parliamentary procedure, the discussions that we had today will be A summary of this will be presented to the Standing Rules and Orders as the outcome of this meeting. The Standing Rules and Orders Committee, yes, which is the policy-making body of the National Assembly, and that body will decide which of the recommendations that were put forward here are taken up. So just to give you the assurance that it wasn't just a talk show, it is something that will be taken forward. The Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly is the chairperson of that committee that Mr. Demper spoke about in the National Council. The committee that deals with the implementation and the follow-up on the recommendations, our Article 66, Rule 66, our Rule 66 in terms of the standing rules. So she's also represented here, and she's also sitting in the Standing Rules and Orders Committee. So with that, we would like to extend our profound gratitude to the EPDN colleagues, our two experts, our two technical advisors here at Parliament. We appreciate your support. We also would like to thank each of the civil society organizations that came to this meeting today, our panelists. We are very happy that you created a platform where we could engage with the civil society organizations, the civil society who were willing also to sit together with parliamentarians to discuss the matter of access to Parliament. We know from our side we have left the cat out of the bag. Many of the things that parliamentarians were telling you today, I'm sure you were not aware of our own inside struggles. You have learned a lot about that. So, Honorable Deputy Speaker, thank you also for gracing us with your presence here today. Honorable members, thank you for making time. Our invited guests, thank you for coming. Colleagues in the room, my colleagues from Committee Services and all other directorates in the National Assembly, thank you for coming. We have come to the end of our meeting. Thank you very much. You are invited for lunch in the restaurant downstairs, so please stay for a quick bite.